opponent's typically not going to be worrying about whether or not you're expanding. He's going to be worrying about his own money.
Yeah, what we can see right now is that the supply is so different. It's 50 to 90. And it's not like Mouse has to. Like, yes, he kind of got an unlucky break with the build that Exlord decided to do. But it's going to be a longer game because we know that Mouse Hasselhoff is going to kind of make a little bit of a comeback. But one way that, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pause.
Yeah. Pause right now.
This is where I introduce, I think, the first kind of metagame shift that I would love to see.
Mm-hmm.
In this situation, let's look at his money. Septio, how much money does he have?
Right now he's got about 250 minerals and 900 gas. A lot of gas left over.
Lots and lots of gas. Now here's the options. He has a bunch of mutas in his base, and he doesn't know how many more mutas are being produced. He also doesn't know how many expansions he has. He could have thrown down 3 expansions during this harass, but he only threw down 1. But Mouse Hasselhoff doesn't know that. There are a couple of options that he can go. He can go for an all-in by just throwing down, like... Or he could try going for an all-in and throw down a bunch of gateways. Not likely because he doesn't have that much money.
He doesn't have the minerals for it.
Yeah. He has a lot of gas. So as a Protoss player, just think to yourself, what requires a ton of gas? Obviously, High Templars do.
Sentries.
So, Sentries do as well. So you have those 2 units, and Archons, High Templar, we're just going to put them as the same unit for our
intents and purposes. Yeah.
So he has to get rid of this gas, because if he doesn't get rid of this gas, it's just so much wasted time kind of deal.
Wasted mining time.
Yeah. He's just going to get farther and farther behind. But he has to make sure this gas goes to a good use. Most of you players and viewers in the chat right now are going to probably say he should go High Templar Archon, because High Templars are really good, and Archons are really, really good against Mutalisks.
And Zerglings. So the Zergling Muta play is very, very vulnerable to that.
But that's what's expected. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's wrong to go for the expected route, but think of this. Hallucination, I think, would be a great metagame shift. I think players should use Hallucination a lot more. Think of how many sentries he could throw down with 800 gas. He gets the upgrade for Hallucination, and he throws down 6 or 7 sentries. And he also has enough gas to tech up to something else, like
Templar.
Let's say, Templar or Colossus. And one thing I would like to note, while this Muta Phoenix battle will be like continuing throughout the game, just imagine if you added, let's say, 4 more Phoenixes to the fight. 4 more hallucinated Phoenixes. They still take the same amount of damage, they still have the same amount of health, but they don't do damage. The thing about Phoenixes and units like them, it's not so much the damage that they need to be successful, it's the amount of health they have.
Yeah, because Phoenixes are really light. They don't have much health. If you look in the bottom screen, you've got 60 shields, which are completely depleted at this point, and 120 health.
So they're not that beefy of a unit for their cost and their build time. So, one of the things that would really help the Phoenix if you were able to get more HP on it. One way you can do that is hallucinate Phoenixes. Imagine you had a battle between 10 Mutalisks and 3 Phoenixes. Without any micro, the 10 Mutas will win, just slightly. But if you add in 2 hallucinated Phoenixes, and the Mutalisks don't micro to target down the real Phoenixes, because you can't tell as a Zard player unless you have an Overseer.
Which you can snipe that too, so you're at an impasse.
Those 5 Phoenixes, with those 2 of them hallucinated, will beat 10 Mutas. So just think about that. Let's go ahead and unpause the game, and we'll continue explaining this idea of hallucination.
Absolutely.
Because right now we're going to see these Mutas do quite a bit of walk. Finally, enough Stalkers all walked in to basically throw back this attack. But by this time, Exlord is so far ahead that Hasselhoff really only has one option, and it's to expand to a Thrard base or just go kill him right now. Expanding to a Thrard base is probably the better idea, but during that attack, he wasn't able to kill these destructible rocks. And he can't pick them up with his Phoenixes, because that would be awesome.
That would be... he can't pick them up with his Phoenixes, because that would be awesome. That's totally...
Everyone write a letter to Blizzard tonight saying Phoenixes should be able to pick up rocks and move them, and like throw them at your enemy's base to like block him in.
Yeah, especially right over the mineral, especially over the mineral line, like so then they can't mine.
That would be awesome.
That'd be so
So
I say build Phoenixes. So imba. You guys should check out that interview with MC. That would be a second recommendation to check out on YouTube. But we're going to see X-Lord doing the right call. He's going to expand to a fourth. Now, one thing I'd like to emphasize, X-Lord is a renowned Zerg for being very cautious. He's very slow. He's not your super, super aggressive Zerg who's going to, like, you know, just mass up an attack and then come kill you immediately.
Yeah, and that's actually going to come and bite him in the butt later in the game. I guess you guys will see what we mean, but he has a bunch of spine crawls. He has 4 of them, but still 4's quite a bit. Especially if they haven't been killed off, I guess. But he's going to build a couple more, if you want to put it that way. But we're going to see these Phoenixes continue to harass these Mutalisks, and I can't keep stressing enough how these Phoenixes would do if
there were a couple more hallucinated with them.
Because these Phoenixes definitely have the damage output to kill these Mutalisks. Like you saw in that last little battle engagement, they killed 2 or 3 Phoenixes, 2 or 3 Mutalisks, because they had such a high damage output, but they just couldn't live long enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the hallucination is such a cheap upgrade. It's 100. It's not like game breaking because you obviously your macro's never going to be that good where you don't have an extra 100 minerals and an extra 100 gas. And if it is, then you don't need our help. So go play ladder.
Go play. What are you doing here?
Take over. My throat is having a fit.
Alrighty.
Talk about the Zarg and how they can do something really, really cool right now.
At this point, though, Jesus has been forced to pretty much turtle himself in. I mean, he's even got a pylon placed over here. And it's going to be very, very hard for Zerg to break this at this point. Now, with the Phoenixes, this type of style that we've come up with over the weekend would be a little bit more difficult. But something that we've talked about that has not really been used by Zerg a lot is Nidus networking and drops. And Nidus has been used, but not in the way that I'm thinking. One of the greatest... Excuse me, my eye is like super bad right now. But one of the most common...
I'm sorry.
No, it's completely fine. Not your fault. One of the most common... the Nidus has been used, but not in the way that we've come up with, which works around one of the most well-known abilities of Protoss is Warp Gate technology. Now, Warp Gate allows you to warp in anywhere where there's pylons, okay? So, very, very useful technology. It's dirt cheap. It's cool. Now, people claim that none of the other races have an ability like that to have reinforcements immediately on the battlefield. I would say that they're wrong, though. I think that Nidus Network has been misused. It's been used normally for sneak attacks, for trying to get, place that Nidus over here deep in his base and then get a whole bunch of probe kills and try and kill him. I would like to propose a new strategy with the Nidus Network, and I'd actually challenge you viewers to try this. In your ladder games, if you play as Zerg, I want you to try to... We're going to see a massive push by Mouse. Also, Jesus, go for the weak... One lesson to be learned from this attack before I continue about Nidus. When there's a big defensive corner like this, your objective is not to break through the most heavily defended area. That sounds really, stupid when you say it, I'm going to break through the most heavily defended area in his defense. But in game, frankly, you don't really think that way. You're like, oh, he's got defense here, I've got to break it, I got to kill it. And then you actually get in game, and then you look at the replay, and you're like, wow, there's a giant hole over here, there's a grand total of 3 spines over here, and now I could have just walked over to his natural and killed that. If I just carved a way through that. Anyway, but Jesus is going to lose this army really, really bad due to running into all those spines.
He did kill all the Mutalisks, though, and he killed quite a few Infestors, so I guess that isn't a complete loss. He's going to save a couple of these Stalkers, but let's not give Hasuops too much credit. That was a terrible engagement, and he lost most everything he had. And he just now expanded to his thought base.
But really, what I'd like to emphasize about the Nidus is on particularly long maps, not on short maps, because on short maps, frankly, with good creep spread, it's much, much faster to just run across the map, especially with things like Zerglings. We're talking more things like Hydras, more things like that. You can form multi-pronged attacks and establish reinforcements using Nidus and drops. For instance, at this point in the game, actually, can we pause so we can just reassess the battlefield at this point? Okay, I'm going to pause right now. All right, so X-Lord has Lings in the main base of Jesus at this point. Now, at this point, Jesus is going to be completely focused on trying to keep his main base alive. And all these probes. That's a lot of probes to keep alive. It's very, very important. And so what we're going to establish with this then, where are all the units of Jesus going to be? They're going to be focused in the main at this point. Now, where does that leave him vulnerable? Let's take a look at the map. We've got Jesus going to be up on 3 bases at this point. He's got his natural, which is, relatively close to his main. It's pretty defendable. So it might not be the best idea to attack here. However, let's say hypothetically you have Overlord speed and drop capacity.
Which together costs 300.
Yes. All of a sudden, you drop, let's say, 20 lings over here in the third. You take out this third, and now, Jesus, let's say you lose all these lings in his main. At the trade of getting this base sniped is a good exchange. If you're able to snipe that third, that would put Jesus in a literally game-killing position. He cannot move any further than the only thing he can be forced to do is expand again. His main is almost mined out. That's a good game decision. Now, it's a little bit of a change, because normally you don't see Zerg going for multi-pronged attacks with drops. Now, you do see ling run-bys over here. If there's another base like up here in the top corner for Jesus, it might be a good idea.
Yeah, I want to stress something about kind of battle tactics. It's often been anciently approved and modernly approved by super awesome generals that I actually don't know the names of. That when you're ahead, or when you have more, if you have a bigger army than your opponent, the best strategy you can do is to divide your opponent's army. Because, obviously, if, let's take this game, actually. We have these lings in the main, and then let's say he dropped on the third base. Mouse Hasuobs, since he's playing from behind this game, he doesn't have that big of an army, he has to split it up equally, but also have enough to hold off both attacks. So when that is split up, it leaves one section of his army completely vulnerable for you to come in, sweep, and take out. It's much easier to fight half of an army than to fight a full army, especially when you're playing from behind. You don't want to engage directly. The best tactic, I would say, if you're ahead, is not just to push it down his throat and try to kill him, but it's to slowly eat away at his economy and just basically force him to GG without even having to fight in the end. So, drop play, that's why drop play is so successful. You get ahead with the drop play, and then you stay ahead with the dropship play.
Mm-hmm.
So, Zarg players, definitely try this. I've been testing it out on ladder. Perhaps when I actually get some pretty games that are actually, mechanically good,
yes,
we might be able to show them to you. Or if you guys out there, if you guys want to try out some drops in Overlords and some Netwalks, go ahead and send us those replays, because I'm sure you could do it much better than I could, because my Zarg is pitiful. I just love the idea. But we can go ahead and unpause to finish up this game.
Yes, while this is running, I do see there's a lot of action in the chat concerning Hydras and Reapers and stuff. Concerning Hydras, in general, they're not a good unit because they're incredibly slow, especially compared to Roaches and Lings and Infestors, other units that have been used. However, I would like to note that you've also said every time that you've talked about Hydras that they're not good as of yet. And that's what this show is about, is showing how they could be good. Now, we're not saying that guaranteed it's going to be good, because honestly, this is theory crafting. This is not about guaranteeing. We aren't going to assert this as 100%, but it's something worth trying. For instance, for Hydra, something that we actually thought up that we thought was a fairly good idea was using Hydras in conjunction with Broodlords in close-by air positions in drops. So, let's say you get a drop on Metalopolis in close-by air positions. You use the Broodlords to establish a line of defense. They create a wall of Broodlings. Then you get Hydras behind it, which will protect you from Vikings, will protect you from any form of anti-air. They do good against Stalkers. The only thing you'd have to worry about is Templar and Archons, but Broodlords do a pretty good job of cleaning that up. So then you're eliminating a large population of units. They do a great job of cleaning up buildings and probes. They do a fantastic job of that. And you're in a good position.
Yeah, definitely. Also, big props to the guys in the chat. You guys are theory crafting like a boss. While some people's been talking, sorry, I haven't been paying attention to much of what you've been saying. Something about Broodlords, I'm assuming.
Something about Broodlords and Hydras.
But this is exactly what we want to spar on in the community. There aren't I don't know of any shows, I don't know of any people that are constantly saying, do this new strategy. do this and try to see if it works and make a strategy around a unit that doesn't really make sense in all situations, like hallucinated phoenixes.